In problem number 2, I'm going to graph y equals -2 cosine x. Now, to find my amplitude, I take the absolute value of a. A is the number directly in front of cosine. So the absolute value of -2 is equal to +2. Now, this is a vertical stretch by 2. Okay, what that means, instead of my maximum and minimum values being at 1 and -1, like on the parent function, my maximum and minimum values will be at 2 and -2. Okay. Next, I'm looking for the period. The period is the length of one cycle of the cosine curve. Can be found by taking 2 pi over b. B is the number directly in front of x. There is no number, which means b is 1. So 2 pi divided by 1 is equal to 2 pi. Now, in these problems at the beginning, there is no phase shift and there is no vertical shift. We're only looking at amplitude and period. Okay. Now, I need to label my x-axis. I know one period has a length of 2 pi. Since there is no phase shift, I will be starting at 0, the origin, on the x-axis. Okay, and I know that one period will end at 2 pi. And I am going to go ahead and make a second period. Now, the second period will end at 4 pi because 2 pi and 2 pi make 4 pi. Now, within each period, there are 3 significant points dividing the period into 4 equal parts. So to make it easier to label the x-axis, I'm going to take my period and divide it by 4, and this is going to give us the length between each point. My period was 2 pi. 2 pi divided by 4 is pi over 2. So beginning with my first point at 0, I'm going to add pi over 2, okay, 8 times to get the remaining values on the x-axis between the two periods. So 0 plus pi over 2 is pi over 2. Pi over 2 plus pi over 2 is 2 pi over 2. I'm going to continue. I have 3 pi over 2, 4 pi over 2, 5 pi over 2, 6 pi over 2, 7 pi over 2, and 8 pi over 2. That's 9 values. And I'm going to use those values to label the x-axis. Make sure you reduce before you label. So I have 0, pi over 2. 2 pi divided by 2 is pi. 3 pi over 2. And notice those are the quadrant angles on the unit circle because there was no phase shift and our period did not change. Okay, my 3 significant points in my second period. I have 5 pi over 2. 6 pi divided by 2 is 3 pi. 7 pi divided by 2. And 8 pi divided by 2 is 4 pi. Okay. Now I am ready to graph my cosine curve. Now, if you look at the parent function, okay, on the previous page, cosine, okay, at 0 always begins at a maximum. So one period goes from a maximum to a maximum. Okay, so usually when I have cosine, at my first point 0, I begin at the maximum. I work my way down to the minimum and end my period back up at the maximum. Okay, but we have a problem. The problem is that my a value is negative. Okay, well, when there's a negative in front of a, it means I have a reflection. Okay, and I have a reflection across the x-axis. Okay. So in my parent function, when a is positive, I start at 2. If I reflect across the x-axis, that means my starting point is going to be at -2. And I'm going to, at each point, work my way up to the maximum of 2 at pi. So 3 pi over 2, back down to 2 pi. So here is 1 period of my cosine curve. Now again, this is flipped from what it usually is because a is negative. My second period is going to be a dotted line. So I'm going to go at 5 pi over 2, I will be on the x-axis. 3 pi, I'm at the maximum. 7 pi over 2, I'm on the x-axis. And 4 pi, I'm at the minimum. And I'm going to connect these with a dotted line. And we have just graphed y equals -2 cosine x.